The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, one and all. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And for all the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV channel on SimulTV, visit simultv.com. And in the search engine at the top of the page, just type in X Zone. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is Dr. DIANE POMERANCE, and she is a best-selling author, speaker, pet expert, and grief counselor. Dr. DIANE received her PhD in mass media communications from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. She received her MA in Theater and BA in History and Speech with a secondary teaching certification. She has also been certified as a grief recovery specialist by the internationally recognized Grief Recovery Institute. Dr. Pomerance counsels those grieving from any loss. However, she has a special interest in helping those mourning the loss of a beloved animal companion. The loss of a pet can be devastating to adults and children alike. Joining me now is Dr. DIANE POMERANCE. And Dr. DIANE, welcome back to the X Zone.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are one very busy person, and what have you been up to since you and I last chatted, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes, no good. Absolutely no good. Actually, I have been so blessed and privileged to work as a grief counselor. Mm-hmm. And I have written a best-selling book called Catherine, A Woman of Vision. Catherine was my mentor, and I met her in Los Angeles in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And aside from all that, I've been lecturing and have a special methodology in terms of grief recovery, which ties in beautifully with what Catherine taught, which was that there is no death.
As a grief counselor, when it comes to little companions, or as my wife calls them, our little fur babies,
yep.
Do people really understand that the loss of a pet is just as significant and mind-boggling as the loss of a human?
It is, and people who love animals recognize that instantly. They know that their cat, dog, horse, whatever, is a family member.
That's right.
And a dearly beloved family member who is non-judgmental and unconditionally loving. And so those that have beloved animal companions in their life really respect and understand that. For other people, people regard pets as chattel or property and don't really understand the significance of the loss of such one.
Yeah, one of my contracts that I did through our company, Relmar, was that of the Director of Communications for the SPCA. And I will tell you something, that the work that the people do, the volunteers do at the SPCA, when it comes to people who have lost an animal companion because they don't know where else to go. And thank goodness for the people at the SPCA who are able to help them either do some counseling themselves or refer them to the right person. And, it's a loss. And these losses that many people who are animal lovers and who, like Laura and I, our little fur babies are part of our family. And
Exactly.
I find it very hard to even think of a day when we're going to lose, all three, any one of the three. So what we do is we make each and every day that they're with us as special as we can.
Yep. It's quality of life.
Yeah.
And, I personally have rescued over 48 dogs, and I have
Wow.
a book called Our Rescue Dog Family Album,
Mm-hmm.
which profiles the backstory of each of the dogs that I've adopted. And some have been hoarded, but they've all been traumatized in one way or another or abused.
Yeah.
And each has such a profound gift, so many profound lessons that they teach us, and I view them as angels. And, of course, we all know the
Yep.
phrase, the idea that dogs spelled backwards is God.
Right.
And, indeed, they are unconditionally loving and loyal and non-judgmental, which for so many people is a lifeline to a greater being, a greater presence in their lives. So, yeah, I started the pet grief counseling program for the SPCA of Texas over 20 years ago now.
My goodness.
And, yeah, it's amazing. And we talk to people from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
from New Zealand to South Africa, Europe, etc. And ours is a one-of-a-kind program, and we offer free to the public counseling.
Right.
We're all grief counselors that are volunteers, basically, and have recognized the need to help others. For so many people, it's an issue of embarrassment or shame to talk about the loss of a pet. It's only the loss of a dog or a cat.
Yeah.
But, again, these are family members for so many. And I work a lot with the elderly population over the past couple of years as a grief counselor. And, of course, as you age, grief is a major issue. And grief incorporates so many different kinds of grief, whether you have physical loss, emotional loss, loss of a husband, a spouse, or a wife, loss of a child, loss of a sibling, financial loss, professional loss, etc. And when you're diagnosed with a disease, whether it's Parkinson's or diabetes or heart disease, again, you're exposed to a major loss, and there's a huge void in your life, and you have to adjust to that. And so grief is grief. And for so many people that are divorced or widowed or simply single, this pet is the reason they wake up in the morning, because, again, they have the need to nurture, to care give, and the pet repays it 1,000-fold.
We were speaking about animal abuse a few minutes ago. If I'm not mistaken, President Trump just signed into law that animal abuse or animal cruelty is now a felony.
Yes, and that's a very positive step.
It is.
So we're optimistic.
Excellent. Diane, for our listeners who may not know anything about Catherine Hayward, can you tell us a little bit about her?
Absolutely. I moved to Los Angeles from New York in 1972, 1973, and not long after I moved to Los Angeles, I met Catherine Hayward through a dear friend of mine from college. And my friend Michelle said, one day she was talking about the remarkable people in her life, and she said, you really must meet my mentor, Catherine Hayward. And she told me all about Catherine. And Catherine had been born in Wales in 1899. And she lived in rural Wales. And long story short, she had an out-of-the-body experience at the age of 7 in Wales, was pronounced dead from pleurisy and heart problems, etc. And she was pronounced dead by her physician. She remembered talking to angelic beings. She didn't know exactly what they were, but she knew they were pure love and very, very kind. And these angelic beings encouraged Catherine to go back into the body. And so Catherine accommodated them. She had heard her mother cry out, and she went back into the body. And from that point on, after several days of recovery and hysteria and just recovering from this horrible, horrible illness, Catherine began to speak in a full, mature adult voice at the age of 7, and she knew past, present, and future. So her life had changed fundamentally forever, and Catherine, from that point on, was psychic. And, of course, at that time, the witchcraft laws were in operation in England, and no one talked about such things. And Catherine's family was Wesleyan, and, you know, it was forbidden. And no one could explain why she knew the things that she knew. But she did, and anyway, she grew up, was unable to go to school because she was always very delicate. And actually that turned out to be a great gift because she was a clean slate, as it were, for her spirit guides. And she came into contact with them at the age of 20.
All right, Diane, we're going to have to take a bit of a cliffhanger here.
Sure.
I have to take my break. Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. Diane Pomerance. And if you'd like to find out more about Dr. Diane, visit her website at drdianepomerance.com. That's DRDIANEPOMERANCE.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and the good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios on Canada's south coast in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. And welcome back. Dr. Diane Pomerance is our special guest this hour. She is a best-selling author, speaker, pet expert, and grief counselor. Now, Dr. Pomerance is the author of 9 books, 7 of which are nonfiction about animals and their purposefulness and significance. The Animal Companion series provides information about all facets of the human-pet bond, including the loss of beloved pets, caring for our aging pets, animal companions as our friends, teachers, guides, and family members, the interconnectedness and interdependence of all living creatures, adopting the perfect pet for you, the healing and other gifts they bring to you. Her most recent book about animals is Our Rescue Dog Family Album. It chronicles the stories of many abused dogs she has rescued and adopted, 48 during the past 3 decades. Once again, her website is drdianepomerance.com. Diane, how has Catherine Hayward affected your life?
She's transformed it. Essentially, she was a source of wisdom, great humor, vision, and peacemaker. And I was so blessed to have met her. I was 29, and she was about 79 when I met her. And as I said before, I met her through a college friend of mine who had been through just terrible, terrible traumas and life situations.
Right.
And my friend Michelle introduced me to Catherine, and when I met Catherine, Catherine gave informal meetings, public meetings at her home in West Hollywood, California. She had a little Agatha Christie-type bungalow with chintz and English arts and crafts everywhere and vases filled with flowers. And, she had an open meeting, and through word of mouth, Angela Lansbury and her mother were among the admirers of Catherine and supporting her work, etc., as was Diana Ross and
oh my goodness.
just many, Richard Chamberlain, many celebrities supported Catherine. And Catherine had retired from England to California and did a lot of speaking engagements and so forth. But when I met her, Catherine just talked inspirationally, no script, no anything, other than this deeply charismatic manner and radiance and charm and wit and that beautiful British accent. And Catherine said things like, there is no death. You couldn't die if you wanted to. The real you is neither the mind nor the body, but it's the power that motivates the mind and the body. And it was really odd because I hadn't given serious thought to any of those issues, although I was very spiritually oriented and had read a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and that was a real turning point for me at the age of about 14 and a half. And anyway, when Catherine said these things, it's as though I had a checklist, and I checked off each of the subjects saying, yeah, I know that. I know that. I don't know how I know that, but I know that. And Catherine went on to say she believed in reincarnation and that we didn't just come into this lifetime once, but rather many, many times, and that our ultimate goal was to become as the great saints, sages, masters, and teachers of all time had become, whether it be Jesus or Buddha or Mohammed or whatever. And she taught that that was our ultimate purpose and goal for living life on Earth.
Now,
and, yeah.
If we humans come back reincarnated, do animals come back as well?
They can. Yeah. It just really depends on the intensity of the relationship you have with the animal. There are many animal communicators out there, and they will tell you that an animal will, by choice, come back as your next dog or cat or whatever for many, many reasons. But it's just something that's intensely personal, and it does depend on the quality, the caliber of that relationship. And you know how some people just adore their animals and are never without them.
Yeah, you're talking to one of them right now.
Oh, yay, Rob. Good for you. Me too. I love my dogs, and I love every animal, but they're so purposeful to me. They teach me so many profound life lessons, and, they're a gift. And I really do feel sad for people that do not have the rich relationship that one can have with a pet.
Yeah.
And a pet is, not only non-judgmental, but unconditionally loving.
That's right.
And and so empathetic. I mean, I have dogs that are assisted living therapy animals, and we go into the hospitals and we work with hospice patients. We work with the elderly, and many Alzheimer's who are more on the other side than they are on this side. And these animals somehow understand. They don't have verbal communication, but they definitely have that mental communication, that empathy, that ESP, whatever you want to call it, but they do have it. And they cut right to the chase.
That's right.
And they do not see the wheelchairs. My dogs are specially trained, but they have to come in that way. They have to be accepting and loving and, of course, respectful of other people and other dogs or cats or whatever it might be. But they are certified. There's an organization called Pet Partners out of Washington State in the U.S., and they have a certification program where these dogs undergo a series of exams in order to pass and become certified animal assisted therapy. Dogs, cats, bunnies. We have pot-bellied pigs. We have just the gamut of animals that serve in this context.
Now, we were talking, I asked you about animals being reincarnated, our pets. And how is it different between a human reincarnation now that we know that there's factors that are involved in the reincarnation of a pet? Do humans automatically become reincarnated? How does that work, Diane?
It's really a decision at the end of life when you've passed from this plane of existence to the next. I think you have a period of relaxation, which sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And a time to put things in perspective and to review your life. And when you're reviewing your life, you have an opportunity to talk with the great elders or whatever you might want to call them, but great teachers and wise teachers, and discuss with them the possibilities of returning either to life on Earth or life on some other planet or life beyond death in some form or format. And it's your decision ultimately in terms of choosing the Earth plane to revisit or not.
So why is it then, Diane, if life continues, and as Catherine Hayward said, there is no death, why is it such a taboo subject in the largest parts of society?
Well, it is and it isn't. It depends on which society you're discussing. Many societies embrace death. And, just in our culture, and I'm not really all that familiar with Canadian culture as I am American culture, but we tend to really dislike talking about death.
Same here.
And it's just not a happy, pretty topic for so many of us.
Yeah.
And that's fear-based, and it's really ignorant. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started studying spiritually, as I have through my whole life, to figure out why would something bad happen at the end of our lives and result in death or this void, and it made no sense to me. So when I read Autobiography of a Yogi, which also proposes and accepts reincarnation, and meeting Catherine, and she talked about reincarnation and that it didn't make any sense for us to be a paraplegic or a quadriplegic or to come in with, babies with AIDS, etc. Right. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. And for some of us to come in as children and be prodigies, whether it be Beethoven or whoever, and just know music and to be able to display that gift, it's the result of many lifetimes of work. And throughout each successive lifetime, we build on different skills and lessons that we need to learn. And so if we've been hateful and we've been, an eye for an eye, etc., that's going to reflect in what is called karma, the cause and effect, that as you sow, you reap. So
I understand the principles behind it, but something that has always confused me about the karmic experience, the reincarnation, the learning, is that with all the learning that is going on based on the number of people who have come and gone from this plane, how come we're still a war-driven world, war-driven society? You'd think that
Great question.
And
yep.
I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think of that because I've got to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. And Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. DIANE POMERANCE. She is a best-selling author. She is a speaker, pet expert, and a grief counselor. Her website is DIANEPomerance.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Dr. DIANE POMERANCE is our guest this hour, Exonation. She's a best-selling author, speaker, pet expert, and grief counselor, and her website is drdianepomerance.com, and there's only one N in Diane. It's DIANEPOMERANCE.com. Before we went to the break, I asked you a question about, basically if we've been reincarnated so many times, and if we take the number of people who have come and gone off the face of the earth and taking us, even a 50% ratio of those who you decide to get reincarnated, how come we still haven't learned how to love and live with each other?
And, of course, one that befuddles so many people. I view it, and Catherine viewed it, as we are all here to evolve spiritually. That is our mission. That is our purpose. That is our goal. And it's as though we're all in a one-room schoolhouse, like in the olden days. And we are all at different grade levels. Some of us are in preschool. Some of us are in kindergarten. Some of us is high school, master's, PhD, and beyond. And so the great teachers like Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi and so forth are beyond, life on earth. They have achieved all that they needed to achieve, and they have lived in love, and they've preached love like Buddha, etc. So they have attained that level of enlightenment, shall we say, and they no longer need to come back to earth to learn those lessons. But we're here to learn the lesson of love and acceptance and gratitude. And that is something that each of us confronts each and every day of our lives. Is it an eye for an eye? Is it, sword to sword? Or is it with love and grace and acceptance that we deal with the situations that we are presented with by life?
Okay.
And so we are here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I can understand that. But
Good.
would it not be easier with all the experiences that have been accumulated ever since the beginning of time on this planet and other planets and other dimensions and other planes, other realities, that instead of putting ourselves through the trials and the tribulations of life, the love, the losses, the grieving, the happiness, would it not be, especially since we're spirits, would it not be advantageous for there to be a better way to learn instead of having to spend time after time after time after time reincarnating, going through the same process?
Well, again, the concept of time. What do we really know of time? With Einstein and all the previous scientists and researchers, what do we really understand? We didn't even understand what light was and light speed and the speed of sound until recently in our history.
Okay.
So
once again, I agree with you, but
well, good.
But looking at it realistically, 5-10 years from now, even maybe tomorrow, a scientist will prove Einstein was wrong and all his formulas go out the window, and then science is in a quandary and they won't know what the heck to do. But putting that aside, if we are spirits, and if there is a greater tomorrow, if there is a greater plan, how come, since the beginning of time, and whether time is instantaneous, whether time stands still, whatever, how come we haven't got it right yet?
Well, I think we're well on our way. And I think this particular juncture of the Earth's history, we are evolving, and we are now entering into humanity's adolescence. And thus we're seeing the crumbling of all these institutions, whether they be religious institutions, i.e. the Catholic Church, and on, and the evangelical movement and all of that. We're seeing that, and we're seeing the crumbling of economic institutions. We're seeing the crumbling of so much that we held dear and regarded as sacred, including monuments. We're talking about physical monuments and historical monuments, etc., that are now crumbling all over the world.
But isn't a monument simply a physical representation so that people can remember the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yes, but again, it's all relative. We don't really know, in the scheme of things, how time itself is meaningful. And there can be, time as we think of it, as we measure it, is not necessarily the way time works.
You're so right. But taking the other side of the story, what happens if spiritualism isn't really what people are telling us it is? What happens that if spiritualism, the spirituality, the reincarnation, and everything that we've been talking about for the first half hour of this interview is fiction?
And if it were fiction, we wouldn't know. Who are we, with our limited perceptions, to understand what fiction, the difference between fact and fiction, as you say, in terms of your show?
Yes.
We don't know.
No.
And we're no judge of what is fact or fiction. We're humble beings living on a planet. We're given lesson after lesson after lesson. And I think that's another aspect of that one-room schoolhouse, where you do not graduate from elementary school without passing all your tests and going through all the grades. There are no skipped grades.
Once again, I agree with you, and I understand where you're getting. But if we're talking about, the crumbling of religious institutions, the crumbling of financial institutions, if we are progressing based on the belief of spirituality, what happens if spirituality itself is the cause of the crumbling because it is an adverse force to what people believe?
Well, again, what's adverse to you is not necessarily adverse to our soul's journey. And so we, in our minds, may interpret something as real or not real, but it's, again, our soul's journey. And if you accept the tenets of the major religions, the little kernels of truth that underlie all the nonsense and ritual and propaganda, etc.
But what's wrong with ritual? What's wrong with religion?
It's not about religion.
I'm a Christian. I go to church on Sunday. I take communion.
Well, you're a good boy.
My children are baptized. My grandchildren are baptized. We celebrate Christmas, Easter, Palm Sunday. So what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. Absolutely nothing's wrong with that.
That is our perception of spirituality. That is our perception of the soul.
Well, you're confusing ritual with spirituality. And spirit comes from the heart and soul. And I think, in terms of Buddha, it's love, compassion, kindness that are the real aspects of religion, to live with respect for all forms of life. And I think that's ultimately what we're here to discover. And through our wars and mayhem and whatever we're enduring at the present time, and this is the crumbling of so many systems of government. Look at England with Brexit and us and the whole Trump era, etc. We're really experiencing crumbling.
I can't see how you say it's crumbling. I see a stronger economy. I see less unemployment. I see.
Look beyond.
No, hold on here. As far as Brexit, England is getting back to where it was. That's not crumbling. That's standing up and saying, "Hey."
Do we really know that it's getting back to where it was?
Do we really know that it's crumbling?
Well, it is in terms of what it's been, of its history, of its past.
In order to get better,
and the royal family is crumbling.
I don't see it, Diane. You and I are looking at the same thing in two different lights. I see the strength of the British people saying enough of the European Union. We don't need it. We got along with it for so long. Why shouldn't we stand back up on our own 2 feet? Hey, listen.
No,
the royal family isn't the first royal family to have problems, and they've circumvented all the problems, and it's made them stronger.
And ultimately, what I'm saying is all of these episodes that are taking place in our time, whether they seem to be fracturing and falling apart, it's cause for us to reassess, to re-examine our values and what are our core values. And if to live in a world of love and respect and humanity and humaneness, we're evolving in that direction. And that's what's happening through the crumbling of these so-called institutions. That's what's happening. And as we evolve, we're seeing things with a different perspective. That's what I'm saying. And with this different perspective, we're seeing that we really need to, we are one planet, one people. And all this divisiveness, you know, we're as you mentioned about my books about animals, etc., that we're all interdependent and interconnected. And you cannot hurt another without hurting yourself. And that's a basic core belief of mine. It really is. That you're here to respect and love all living creatures, not to decimate the planet and do what we have done, so much injury to our planet and our animals, so many on the verge of extinction, etc. We're here to evolve and get beyond this.
All right,
and it's
stand
just
by.
Like the teenage
I've got
years.
to evolve to my next commercial break, so stand by. And Exonation will be back on the other side as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. All right, here's a little bit of a riddle for you, Exonation. How many people does it take to produce a radio show? It takes two. Craig and Master Control. Actually, it takes three. It takes three. You've got Craig and Master Control. You've got me over here. And tonight we have a very, very patient guest who was with us during a little bit of a hiccup we had. And, well, as you know, Exonation, I'm talking to Dr. DIANE Pomerance this hour. And first of all, DIANE, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for your patience during the last commercial break.
Rob, my pleasure. What you're doing is wonderful, and I applaud your efforts. I really do.
As somebody who has been in the media yourself, you know, you produce, write, direct.
Forever.
You know,
forever.
How do you see the media of today when it comes to the work that you are doing, the mission that Catherine Hayward was on? How do you see the media? Is it an asset or is it a hindrance?
An asset. And it can be much more of an asset if we're a little more disciplined in what we project.
What should we
I
do?
think Pardon?
What should we do?
We should be disciplined. We should have integrity. We should have honor and disseminate information that is factual as to the best of our abilities. We should care for one another, respect one another, and so forth.
I agree with you 100%. I am so tired of the left and the right within the media. I am so tired of the philosophy of if it don't bleed, it don't lead. I am so tired of the hatred that is being disseminated on social media channels and platforms.
Exactly. It needs to be love that's disseminated.
You know what?
It needs to be the truth that needs to be disseminated.
Well, if you have love, you have the truth. Because if you love...
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Because if you love something...
And let's do that.
Hey,
let's do that.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You know, I'm an old guy that was around in the 60s, and it was...
No, not the 60s.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's... Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a spin-off here. My wife, Laura, who together we have 6 children, 12 grandchildren, and our 3 little fur babies.
Brad. Wonderful.
She hitchhiked to Woodstock. She was at Woodstock.
She knew the way.
She did. She did.
She did, absolutely.
And after Woodstock, she hitchhiked. Now, she's 14 at the time. Ran away from home, hitchhiked.
God bless her. I like her already.
Hitchhiked to California to where her grandparents lived. And they took her to San Francisco, you know, Haight-Ashbury.
Oh, absolutely. I remember. I was at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Man.
We had strikes and protests it was like Berkeley.
But see, and what was going on back there, as I see it, Diane, is the hippies.
Revolution.
That's right.
Revolution. That's what we're going through
Yeah.
now. Very similar. Growth pains.
Growth pains is an understatement, because what the hippies were doing is they were saying, make love, not war.
War. Absolutely.
You know, and the Beatles, all you need is love.
Oh, I know. Those were the days.
How come we didn't listen? How come we didn't learn?
We are listening, and there are many of us who are listening, and there are many of us who are acting upon that philosophy. And the Beatles have left a giant legacy, God only knows. And we, you know, again, we're all at different grade levels.
Right.
And those of us that comprehend, you know, what the Beatles were espousing and all these other, you know, Don McLean, Bye Bye, Miss American Pie,
Oh,
et cetera,
yeah.
et cetera. You know, we understood, and we're still grappling with all of that and trying to make change. And we are creating change. That's why Brexit. That's why the U.S. That's why democracies and Hong Kong and everything that's going on in the world today is taking place. We are after the truth. And this is another facet of that search for the truth.
You know, you and I talk about animals.
Yes, we do.
We love them. And when
Yes,
I
we
look
do.
at some of these artist renditions of the animal kingdom, they always have humans at the top. And I have always thought that is so wrong.
No.
That is so wrong. They should be at the bottom.
Interconnected and interdependent. And no, we are not superior. That all came about with the dominion over animals.
Yeah.
No, dominion means guardianship, stewardship.
Yep.
We are not better than, and we love to be arrogant and hold ourselves superior.
And
but
I think
we are not.
And I think that this is where the message that you're getting across is becoming very clear. Is that,
Yep.
number one, get rid of the arrogance. Number two, get rid of any divisions. Number three, get rid of the different gods that are
That's
out
right.
there, including...
One people, one planet.
Exactly.
God, the creative
Yep.
force. Period. End of conversation.
I believe in tomorrow. I believe that we do have the ability.
And so do I.
And that
And
we
so
will
do
get
I.
together. And there's nothing wrong with holding hands and singing Kumbaya. I think it's a great thing to do.
I love Kumbaya. One of my favorites.
So what are you going to be doing in the future, Diane? You're such a busy lady, so many books.
You know, Rob, just what you're going to be doing, spreading the word that we are to live in love and respect for one another and our planet and all creatures on Mother Earth. That's what we're here to do. That's the bottom line of ultimate fulfillment and happiness.
A couple of weeks ago, I had the founders of Four Oceans on the show. Here you've got these two guys who saw the pollution of the ocean, and they decided to
Yep.
do something about it.
Yep.
And from this idea, these two people have turned it into an international organization, making
yes,
a
and
difference.
Rob, you've helped. You've helped. Just like you're helping me disseminate my message. And I'm helping you disseminate yours.
Well, don't we help each
That's
other?
what we're here for.
Yeah, I agree. Wow. Where can our listeners get copies of your books, my dear?
Amazon, certainly, and barnesandnoble.com, et cetera, et cetera. It's on Kindle. It's all over the place. It's all over the world. It's translated into many different languages.
If you were teaching a mass media class to a bunch of green students who want to sink their teeth and become media magnets, what words of advice would you have for them?
Love, wisdom, compassion, care. Care for one another. Care about the information that you're disseminating. Make sure it's got integrity and honor.
Information is power.
Yes, indeed.
Information is power.
Yep.
Over the years that you've been in the industry, did you ever think that it would be so powerful that all this information that is being broadcast to us, either by radio, television, newspaper, the internet, Wi-Fi, cell phones, did you ever think that all this information would be accessible the way it is?
I don't think so, but I knew that as far as radio and television, film especially, was a propaganda medium. You could, throughout World War I and the other wars that we've been involved in, that you could convey a message of peace and to stop the war and to, yearn for love and peace and a planet of peace. So I think I didn't know all the various aspects that would arise in terms of communication channels, but I knew that film was very powerful, and that sitting in a darkened auditorium and watching the large screen with figures larger than life were profoundly affecting and emotional, and were great examples of what we could be, what we could aspire to be.
Diane, you and I have to say so long for tonight. I do want to thank you so much for joining us. And once again,
thank you.
Let our listeners know what your website is.
It's drdianepomerance.com.
Diane, this song that we're taking out is just for you. It's by Josh Groban. It's called Let There Be Peace on Earth. I'll be back on the other side of this break.
Oh, I love that song.
Don't go
That
away.
was Catherine's song.
There be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony.
All right, Exonation, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, visit Dr. Pomerance's website at drdianepomerance.com. Don't go away. Enjoy the rest of this song.
Let this be my song.